What is up there, Misfits? Welcome back to my channel, Pages of Ascension. My name is Tia. So today, I am actually going to do, I think I'll do the requested video first. So, I received a viewer request and they wanted to know, how do you prime a tarot deck, right? You get a new tarot deck, you do your own version of cleansing, you're like, okay, well, what now? So I am actually going to show you what I do personally with every single one of my tarot decks to actually prime the deck for me. So today's deck, today I will be using the deck rather of the Wild Unknown Tarot deck by Kim Kranz. I'm super excited to actually have this particular deck. My eye has been on it for some time. So yeah, that is what this video is going to be about. So make sure you stay tuned all the way to the end so you can see how to prime your own tarot deck. What's up there, Misfits? Welcome back to Pages of Ascension. So this is actually a viewer requested video. She asked, how do you prime a tarot deck? So I have actually already cleansed this deck. That's something I do every deck I get. I will cleanse it, you know, either by sage or by incense, sometimes with an oil if that is what's called for, like a magical oil, if you will. I do actually cover that in my Sun and Moon Tarot unboxing video. It's at the beginning of that video. And if you want to stay and watch the flip through, that happens after that. Okay, so how do you prime a tarot deck? Well, once I cleanse my deck and I pray over my deck, what I will often do is I'll kind of get my shuffle on. So I'll begin to shuffle the deck and concentrate on what I want the intention for the deck to be about. So the way I tend to work with my tarot decks is there are certain topics that I will use certain decks for. So with this particular deck, it would probably be just because of the imagery, just because of the energy that I get off of this deck, I will likely use this for spiritual path. Like in personal readings, I would use this as a spiritual path. Or if we're looking at underlying energies, so like if you're looking for specific synchronicities, looking for even some degree of archetypical sorry, archetypical energies, because there are a lot of things that we can learn from the animal kingdom. Before we evolved, we were in the animal kingdom, you know, and to some degree we still are. We are very much a part of the natural world. As the natural world is a part of us, we get a lot of our resources, most of our resources, in fact, from the natural world. We've developed certain behaviors and certain attributes from animals, for example. So that's one of the things I really like about this deck, is because it honors that connection. Okay, so after I've shuffled a little bit, I usually put the deck into 4 piles because I like to make sure that the deck is fully shuffled before I begin to work with it. They don't necessarily have to be equal piles, just make them in such a way that you can shuffle them. And what I do is I will shuffle and shuffle and shuffle and shuffle each pile. Okay, so I usually do about 3 or 4 times per pile, and then I combine those piles. Alright, so now I'm going to combine these two. And this just makes sure that, just because most decks will come in the order that they are, and in order to make sure that you're getting the cards that you are supposed to, that it is fully primed and ready to use, it's good to mix them up. During this period of time, I suggest to focus again on your intention for the deck. It's a little bit smaller of a pile, but that's okay. So let's do that a couple of times. And while I'm doing this, I don't focus so much if the cards go reverse or not, because I decide, you know, well, I should say the deck tells me whether or not it's something that wants to be used in reverse. And most often I don't use my decks in reverse. I don't read the reverse cards. There's some decks and at some points in time that is called for, and I'll do that when I am told to do that. But for the most part, I tend to use my cards upright. So if they come out and they're in reverse, I flip them upside down, or flip them right side up, rather. So don't worry too much about that. Just spend the time focusing on your intention for the deck. So say, for example, if you were choosing to use this particular deck as a deck for self-reflection and for self-growth, you would be concentrating on self-growth and self-reflection and pouring that energy into the deck. Okay, so now I take those two piles. Ooh, one's a little thicker. And I shuffle. And shuffle. And shuffle some more. So these shuffle actually really, really nice. For those of you that hopped over from the unboxing video for this deck. All right, let me do one more, and then I will move on to my next step for priming my tarot deck. Okay. So again, you sit with your deck, you pour your intention into it, and you know, say for example, thank the deck. So I thank you for coming into my presence. My intention is to use this deck for self-reflection and self-growth, and to help my clients do the same. And then what I like to do with a new deck, and I'm sorry, I knock to pour my energy into that, into the deck. So, what I like to do with every new deck, because I feel like the decks that we're drawn to, the decks that we're attracted to, we're drawn and attracted to for a reason, okay? So what I like to do is shuffle, I know, shuffle some more, right? And see what card pops out as the significator for me in this deck, okay? Because I do feel like in every deck there's a specific card that always comes out that's more specifically for you. It's the reason that you're drawn to the deck in the first place, right? So that is what I'm going to do. So I'm going to draw this card, which will be my archetype, and a million of them came out. So let's try that again. Sometimes that happens too. So I'm just looking for one, please. Just one card. There we go. That's hilarious. That's super hilarious. Okay, so I've got my card, which is the High Priestess, which is the card probably I identify with the most in the tarot. And I read that out of the book, and what I actually will do is I'll mark a little bit in the book, especially if it's a new deck, or if it's a new, like I said, a new type of tarot deck, or like a new take on the tarot, for example. Tarot in and of itself has its standard meanings, but not all decks are created equal, if that makes sense. Each author, each artist has their own take of what each card means to them. So, you know, unless it's like a standard Rider-Waite deck, oh, that's so crazy, I'd flip right to it. That's been happening a lot lately. So unless that, they're like, your typical standard Rider-Waite or your standard Golden Dawn base deck. I always say it's really important to look at what the author has used, or their description of the card, because you can also gain more insight into that card by learning other people's insights into the cards. And that's one of the things that I appreciate about the tarot community, but that can also be a little toxic within the tarot community. It must be read this way. It only means this. I'm sorry, but tarot is not that strict. Okay, it's just not. One person can look at the High Priestess and pick up something completely different than another person who looks at the High Priestess card. So I always say, take your own interpretations, of course. Always use your own intuition, right? But don't bypass what comes with the deck. Don't bypass that information, because that information is additionally being provided for a reason. So I'm going to take my pencil and I'm going to mark this deck. I also like to date when I get a certain card, especially if I'm learning like a new system or a new type of oracle deck, because it helps me remember what was going on at that time, the reason that it came up in the first place, and it kind of helps to jog the memory when you come back to it, and that's one of the ways that you can discover patterns. Okay, so let's go ahead and read the High Priestess card. Let me move these over here, and so you can see the High Priestess card. Okay, zoom in just a little bit. There we go. Okay, so here's the High Priestess card in the book. All right, and the keywords are mystery, psychic, wisdom. Okay, and it says the High Priestess sits in stillness. From there, she's able to access realms others pass by without noticing. The vast world of intuition, dreams, and mystery. She uses silence and non-action to harness this power. Sometimes this card appears to remind you to listen more closely to the voice within. Other times it's a sign to look past the obvious, to find what's being kept secret or hidden within a given situation. Acknowledge the shadows. I personally love her interpretation of the High Priestess. Yeah, and maybe at some other time I'll go into that, because I know this is just a priming video and I don't want to make this too long. But yeah, speaking of the High Priestess card, of learning when to act and learning when to sit still, that's very important, especially if you are someone who's in energy work or looking to get into energy work. And I'll, totally call myself out. That's been one of the hardest lessons for me to learn, because I like to go. I'm like, just let's get it done, and sometimes action is not what's required. Or in the sense, action is required, but it's not necessarily performing that action so much as it is learning when the correct time to act is. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and leave that here. So that is just one way to prime your deck. Again, just to go ahead and list it off to recap. So the first thing you want to do is cleanse your deck. Absolutely cleanse your deck. If you do nothing else, just run it through some sage. I actually will run each individual card through sage. Some people might think that that's a little intense, but that is just the way that I work as a reader. Okay, do what suits you. Okay, and then the next thing you want to do is to program your deck. So that's setting intention for what you plan to use the deck for. If it's self-growth, if it's self-reflection, just like I gave you that example doing this, then go ahead and say that. If it's, a deck that you want to use specifically for love and to find out about love, then you program for that. If it's specifically for money or for work, program for that, so on and so forth, okay? And then the next thing that you want to do is full on prime your deck. So that's making sure that the deck is fully shuffled, so that when you are pulling cards, that you're not only getting the correct cards, but that your energy is fully incorporated into the deck. That is what shuffling is. Outside of just kind of mixing the card up, it's pouring the energies that you're looking to learn about or looking to know about into the deck. So that the card that you need, the card that's symbolic of what it is that you need to learn or the message that you need to hear, actually comes out. Okay? So with that, thank you so much for watching this video. I really appreciate the comments. I really appreciated the request for this. If you've got a request of a video that you would like to see on this channel, please drop me a line in the comments. Let me know. You can do that on any video. I love reading your comments. I love responding to them. And with that, much love to you. Remember, your peace is your power, and I will see you next time. Bye.